I am Amanda, 35, a successful interior designer living in New York. I woke up excited on my birthday, expecting celebration with my husband James. Instead, I found an empty house. No cards. No flowers. No breakfast. No texts. After hours of silence, I finally called him. That laughter in the background? Lake Como. With my sister Rebecca. She grabbed his phone. He is divorcing you and upgrading to me. Their betrayal crushed me that day, but they had no idea what was coming. If you are enjoying this story, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments where you are watching from. Your support means everything as I share my journey of betrayal and sweet revenge. For 8 years, James and I built what I thought was a perfect marriage. We lived in a spacious penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, hosted elegant dinner parties for his banking colleagues, and traveled to exotic destinations twice a year. From the outside, we were the golden couple everyone envied. We met at a charity gala for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I was there showcasing my interior design work, having just started my own firm after years of working for others. James approached me with a glass of champagne and a confidence that was both intimidating and alluring. "Your design for the East Wing installation is extraordinary," he said, actually knowing what he was talking about. Unlike most men at these events, he asked questions about my creative process rather than just complimenting my black dress. Our romance was a whirlwind. Within 3 months, we were vacationing in Santorini. By 6 months, he proposed on a private yacht in the Hamptons with a 5-carat diamond that caught the sunset in ways that seemed magical. I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was the event of the season. 200 guests at the Plaza Hotel, flowers flown in from Holland, a 7-tier cake, and a honeymoon that spanned 3 countries. Looking back, I realized the grandeur of it all blinded me to the cracks already forming. My career flourished after our marriage. James introduced me to his wealthy clients, and soon I was designing penthouses for hedge fund managers and vacation homes for tech executives. My signature style of modern elegance with unexpected vintage touches became highly sought after. I opened a design studio in Soho with a team of 6 designers working under me. James climbed the ranks at his investment firm, becoming the youngest partner in the company's history. His specialty was European acquisitions, which meant frequent trips overseas. I never questioned his late nights or weekend work emergencies. I trusted him completely. The only cloud in our perfect life was our struggle with infertility. After 3 years of trying, 2 rounds of IVF, and 1 heartbreaking miscarriage, we decided to postpone having children. James seemed almost relieved, throwing himself deeper into work. I buried my disappointment by taking on more clients. Then there was my sister Rebecca. 2 years younger than me, she had always been the pretty one, the fun one, the one who turned heads. While I built my business with discipline and hard work, Rebecca floated between modeling jobs, social media influencing, and dating wealthy men. Despite her flakiness, I adored her. We were each other's only siblings, and after our father died 5 years ago, I felt even more protective of her. Rebecca often stayed with us between apartments or relationships. James was always a perfect gentleman around her, if somewhat distant. I never once suspected anything between them. Not even when Rebecca started asking strange questions about our marriage. Not even when she began dropping by my studio unexpectedly to ask about James's schedule. Not even when she gave him an overly expensive watch for Christmas last year. The signs were there, but I chose not to see them. Just like I chose not to question why James had become increasingly secretive about his phone, or why he had started taking calls in another room, or why his business trips had become more frequent over the last 6 months. For my 35th birthday, I expected something special. James had mentioned planning a surprise weeks earlier. I imagined perhaps a weekend trip to Paris or a private dinner at our favorite Michelin-starred restaurant. I had a new dress ready, a deep emerald silk that complemented my auburn hair and made my green eyes pop. The night before, James kissed me distantly and said he had an early meeting but would see me tomorrow for your special day. I went to sleep filled with anticipation, completely unaware that my perfect life was about to shatter into a million painful pieces. I woke up alone on my birthday, the sheets on James's side of the bed cold and undisturbed. This wasn't unusual given his early meeting, so I stretched contentedly, imagining what surprises the day might hold. Perhaps he was arranging breakfast to be delivered, or picking up flowers. I checked my phone, several birthday messages from friends, but nothing from James. Still, I wasn't concerned. By 9 o'clock, I had showered and dressed, expecting something to arrive, a package, a call, anything. By 10, a slight uneasiness began to creep in. I called James, but it went straight to voicemail. Hey, it's me. Just wondering what time I should be ready for whatever you have planned. Call me back. Love you. At 11, my friend Stephanie called to wish me happy birthday. So what did James plan for the big day? She asked. I'm not sure yet, I replied, trying to keep my voice light. It's a surprise. How exciting. Send me pictures when it happens. By noon, uneasiness had morphed into concern. I called James again. Straight to voicemail. I texted, is everything okay? Starting to get worried. No response. At 1 o'clock, my mother called. Happy birthday, sweetheart. What has James planned for your special day? We're doing something tonight, I lied, not wanting to admit that I had no idea where my husband was. That's nice. Have you heard from Rebecca? I've been trying to reach her all day. A cold feeling washed over me. No, I haven't. Maybe she's busy. On her sister's birthday? That's not like her. After hanging up, I tried Rebecca's number. Straight to voicemail, just like James. The coincidence made my stomach knot, but I pushed the thought away. No, that was impossible. James would never. Rebecca would never. By 3 in the afternoon, I was pacing our apartment, alternating between worry and anger. What if something had happened to him? What if he was in an accident? But why wasn't he answering? And where was Rebecca? At 4:30, my phone finally rang. James's name lit up the screen. Relief flooded me as I answered. James, where have you been? I've been worried sick. Instead of an apology, I heard laughter in the background. Music. The clink of glasses. It sounded like a party. Amanda. His voice was cold, detached. Not the voice of a man who had forgotten his wife's birthday, but the voice of someone who simply didn't care. I thought you would have figured it out by now. Figured what out? Where are you? Lake Como. The villa. Remember the one I said I wanted to buy? Well, I did. My mind spun. The villa in Lake Como had been our dream, a retirement plan, a place to spend summers when we were older. You bought it? Without telling me? And you're there now? On my birthday. More laughter in the background. A woman's laughter. Familiar. James, who's there with you? A rustling sound, as if the phone was being passed, and then, hey sis. Surprise. Rebecca's voice, slightly slurred from what I assumed was expensive champagne. My sister. My husband. Together in Lake Como. On my birthday. What is going on? My voice was barely a whisper. What's going on, Rebecca purred, is that James has finally upgraded to the better sister. The prettier one. The fun one. I couldn't breathe. The room seemed to spin around me. Put James back on the phone. Fine. He wants to tell you anyway. James's voice returned, businesslike and cold. I've filed for divorce, Amanda. My lawyer will contact you next week with the papers. Divorce? James, what are you talking about? We can work through whatever this is. There's nothing to work through. It's over. I've moved on. With Rebecca. How long? I managed to ask. 6 months. Maybe longer. Does it matter? 6 months. Half a year of lies. Of betrayal. With my own sister. How could you do this? Both of you. It just happened, James said, not a hint of remorse in his voice. Look, I never meant for you to find out this way. Rebecca grabbed the phone again. That's not true, James. Be honest with her at least. She laughed. We planned to tell you today. Happy birthday, sis. Your gift is freedom from a man who doesn't love you anymore. The phone went dead. I stood in my apartment, the phone still pressed to my ear, unable to move. Unable to process the cruelty of what had just happened. The doorbell rang, startling me out of my shock. Numbly, I answered it to find Stephanie and Kayla, my two closest friends, holding cake and champagne. Surprise, they called out before taking in my face. Amanda? What's wrong? I collapsed into Stephanie's arms, the tears finally coming. Between sobs, I managed to tell them about the call. About James and Rebecca. About Lake Como and the divorce. That son of a bitch, Kayla whispered, pulling out her phone. And your sister? That's beyond betrayal. Stephanie led me to the couch, her arm tight around my shoulders. We're here for you. Whatever you need. I thought we were happy, I said, my voice hollow. I thought we had the perfect life. No one has the perfect life, Stephanie said gently. And anyone who would do this to you doesn't deserve you. But her kind words couldn't penetrate the darkness that was enveloping me. In a single phone call, I had lost my husband, my sister, and the life I thought I had. And I had no idea how I would ever recover from this birthday betrayal. The week after my birthday passed in a blur of tears and disbelief. Stephanie insisted I stay with her rather than in the penthouse filled with memories of James. I moved into her guest room with just a suitcase of clothes, unable to face packing up my life just yet. On the third day, James's lawyer called. The divorce papers would be delivered by courier. James was requesting an expedited process. He was generously offering me a one-time settlement of $200,000, a pittance compared to our joint assets. The penthouse, our vacation home in the Hamptons, our art collection, he wanted it all. When I mentioned our prenuptial agreement, the lawyer smoothly informed me that certain infidelity clauses might be invoked against me. That's absurd, I said. I never cheated on James. Mr. Wells has evidence suggesting otherwise. It was a lie, of course. A ploy to intimidate me into accepting a grossly unfair settlement. I later learned James had paid a colleague to claim he'd had an affair with me. Just one of many calculated moves in his plan to discard me. When I tried to access our joint bank accounts, I discovered they had been emptied. 8 years of marriage, and James had planned his exit with surgical precision, leaving me financially vulnerable. The social fallout was just as devastating. Our circle quickly divided, with most people siding with James, the wealthy, powerful investment banker, rather than the interior designer wife he'd discarded. Invitations dried up. Calls went unreturned. Even clients began canceling projects, not wanting to be associated with the messy divorce that was becoming gossip fodder at every social gathering. The worst part was discovering how long the betrayal had actually been. Through tearful conversations with our former housekeeper, who quit when James took Rebecca to our Hamptons house for a weekend while I was visiting my mother. I learned the affair had been going on for closer to a year, not 6 months. Rebecca had been sleeping with my husband while staying in our guest room. While eating dinners I cooked. While accepting my help with her car payments. James and Rebecca made no attempt to be discreet now that their secret was out. Their social media accounts filled with photos from Lake Como, Positano, Monaco, a grand European tour flaunting their relationship. Rebecca even wore my emerald earrings in several photos, birthday gifts from James 2 years ago that had mysteriously disappeared from my jewelry box. Then came the taunting texts from Rebecca. He says you were always frigid in bed. So glad I could warm him up. Thanks for introducing me to James's favorite restaurant. We went there last night. He says it's so much better with the right company. The divorce lawyer says you'll be lucky to get enough for a studio apartment. Hope you like roommates. I blocked her number, but the damage was done. Each message was a knife twisting in an already excruciating wound. James communicated only through his attorney, with coldly worded emails about property division and settlement terms. The man I had loved for 8 years, who had held me through my father's death and our miscarriage, now treated me like a business transaction he couldn't complete fast enough. My design business suffered as I struggled to focus. I lost 2 major clients who were friends with James. My assistant had to handle 3 projects I couldn't bring myself to work on. I started drinking wine at noon, then switching to vodka in the evening. Anything to numb the pain and humiliation. After a month of this downward spiral, I hit rock bottom. I was sitting on Stephanie's bathroom floor at 3 in the morning, an empty bottle of Pinot Noir beside me, scrolling through old photos of James and me, when I saw it, an earlier picture of us in Santorini, Rebecca in the background. Watching James with an expression I'd completely missed at the time, desire, calculation, envy. How long had she wanted him? How long had she plotted to take him from me? Had anything in my life been real? I deleted every photo, threw my phone against the wall, and cried until there were no tears left. I decided then that I would sell my engagement ring and use the money to move to another city, Chicago, maybe, or Los Angeles. Somewhere I could start over without the ghost of my failed marriage haunting me. The next day, puffy-eyed and defeated, I dragged myself to a coffee shop near Stephanie's apartment. As I waited in line, someone tapped my shoulder. Amanda? Amanda Wells. I turned to see Taylor Green, my roommate from college. We'd been close once but had drifted apart after graduation. She looked the same, tall, confident, impeccably dressed in what I recognized as a Chanel suit. Taylor. Hi. I tried to smile, acutely aware of my unwashed hair and rumpled clothes. Her smile faded as she took me in. Are you okay? You look terrible? Yeah, I know. To my horror, tears welled in my eyes. Taylor immediately steered me to a quiet table in the corner. Talk to me. What's going on? Perhaps it was the genuine concern in her eyes, or maybe I was simply desperate to unburden myself to someone outside my immediate circle, but I told her everything. The birthday call, the affair with Rebecca, the divorce, the financial manipulation. All of it. Taylor listened without interruption, her expression growing increasingly outraged. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Amanda, I'm a divorce attorney. A good one. And what James is doing is not just cruel, parts of it are illegal. I blinked at her. You're an attorney? Partner at Greenfield and Associates. We specialize in high-asset divorces. She pulled out her business card. And I'm going to help you. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of something other than despair. It wasn't hope yet, I was too broken for that, but perhaps it was the beginning of a path forward. I had no idea then that this chance meeting with Taylor would not only save me from my darkest moment, but would ultimately lead to the sweetest revenge anyone could imagine. Taylor wasted no time taking control of my legal situation. The day after our coffee shop reunion, she marched me into her corner office with its breathtaking view of Manhattan and laid out a battle plan. First, we freeze any remaining joint assets before James can touch them. Second, we hire a forensic accountant to trace the money he's already moved. Third, we counter his divorce filing with our own terms. She typed rapidly on her laptop as she spoke. The prenup works in your favor, not his. His infidelity invalidates any claims against you. I sat across from her, feeling a strange mixture of numbness and relief. I don't even know if I can afford your services. Taylor stopped typing and looked at me directly. You were there for me during the worst semester of my life, remember? When my mom was sick and I almost dropped out. This is non-negotiable. We'll work something out on payment after we take down your scumbag husband. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of strength returning. Taylor's confidence was contagious, her competence reassuring. She was a far cry from the anxiety-ridden college student I'd once comforted through panic attacks. Over the next 2 weeks, Taylor's team uncovered evidence that changed everything. James had not only emptied our personal accounts, but had been siphoning money from our joint business entity, a holding company we'd created for real estate investments, for months. He had transferred over $2 million to offshore accounts, a clear violation of both our prenuptial agreement and state law. This is financial fraud, Taylor explained, spreading documents across her conference table. Not just against you as his spouse, but potentially criminal activity. We now have leverage. But the most surprising discovery came when Taylor's forensic accountant found irregularities in James's business dealings over the past 3 years. "He's been operating right on the edge of securities law," Taylor said. "Nothing definitively illegal yet, but questionable enough that his firm would be very concerned if this came to light during a messy divorce." I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. "So, what do we do with this?" "We don't show our full hand yet. We let him know we're aware of the offshore accounts. That's enough to make him nervous without revealing everything we know." Taylor's strategy worked. Within days of her first letter to James's attorney, the tone of the divorce proceedings changed dramatically. The demands became less aggressive, the settlement offers more reasonable. James was worried. During this time of legal maneuvering, Taylor invited me to a gallery opening in Chelsea. "You need to get out," she insisted. "And I want you to meet someone." I agreed reluctantly, feeling self-conscious in the black dress I'd borrowed from Stephanie. I hadn't attended a social event since the separation, and the thought of making small talk with strangers exhausted me. The gallery was crowded with New York's elite, exactly the type of event I would have attended with James. I felt exposed without him beside me, as if everyone was whispering about the abandoned wife. "Amanda." Taylor appeared at my elbow, champagne flutes in hand. "There's someone I'd like you to meet." She led me to a tall man examining a large abstract canvas. When he turned, I recognized him immediately, Nathaniel Morris, the tech billionaire whose art collection was legendary in design circles. "Nathaniel, this is Amanda Wells, the interior designer I mentioned." He extended his hand. "Taylor speaks highly of your work. I understand you did the Levinson penthouse on Park Avenue." I shook his hand, surprised he knew my projects. "Yes, that was one of mine. Impressive use of space and light. I particularly liked the juxtaposition of mid-century pieces with those custom built-ins." Our conversation flowed easily from design to art to architecture. Nathaniel was knowledgeable and unpretentious, asking thoughtful questions about my creative process. For a blissful hour, I forgot about James and Rebecca, lost in a discussion about Italian modernism and the revival of artisanal craftsmanship. As the evening wound down, Nathaniel mentioned his recent purchase of an estate in Monaco. "It needs a complete redesign. The previous owner had questionable taste, gold fixtures everywhere and more marble than a mausoleum." "Sounds challenging," I said, smiling genuinely for the first time in weeks. "I need someone with vision." He handed me his card. "I'd like to discuss the possibility of you taking on the project." After he left, Taylor couldn't contain her excitement. "Do you realize what just happened? Nathaniel Morris never approaches people, they approach him. And he wants you for the Monaco project." "I can't possibly take on something of that scale right now," I protested. "My business is barely functioning, and I'm in the middle of a divorce." "Which is exactly why you need this," Taylor countered. "It's not just a job, Amanda. It's a lifeline." She was right, of course. I called Nathaniel the next day and arranged a meeting to discuss the project further. What began as a professional relationship quickly evolved into something more complex. Nathaniel was recently divorced himself and understood the emotional turmoil I was experiencing. He was patient when I had bad days, encouraging when I doubted my abilities, and genuinely interested in my recovery. As we worked together on plans for the Monaco estate, an unexpected romance blossomed. It wasn't the passionate whirlwind I'd experienced with James, but something steadier, more thoughtful. Nathaniel saw me at my most vulnerable and didn't take advantage. Instead, he helped me rebuild my confidence piece by piece. Meanwhile, Taylor's investigation into James's finances yielded another crucial discovery. He had been using my family connections, specifically my uncle's position on the board of a major banking corporation, to facilitate deals for his firm. Without those connections, several of his pending European acquisitions were in jeopardy. "This explains why he's suddenly more agreeable to settlement terms," Taylor said. "He needs this divorce finalized before his business partners realize he's lost his valuable family connections." What James couldn't know, was that Nathaniel Morris was being courted by James's investment firm for a major technology acquisition. Nathaniel had mentioned it casually, unaware of the connection until I explained who James was. His firm has been pursuing me for months, Nathaniel said, surprised. Harper and Wells. James, is that Wells? Senior partner, I confirmed. Nathaniel's expression hardened. Interesting. They've scheduled a presentation in Monaco next month. James Wells is leading it. A plan began to form, not just for a fair divorce settlement, but for something more satisfying, showing James and Rebecca exactly what they had lost. With Nathaniel's help and Taylor's legal strategy, I began preparing for a moment of perfect justice. I transformed myself during this time, not just externally with a new haircut and wardrobe befitting Nathaniel's world, but internally. I rediscovered my strength and ambition. My design business stabilized as word spread about the Monaco project. I began to see that losing James might have been the best thing that ever happened to me. One evening, as Nathaniel and I reviewed design plans on the terrace of his New York penthouse, he casually mentioned the upcoming investment gala in Monaco. James doesn't know about us, does he? He asked. No. We've only communicated through attorneys since the separation. Nathaniel smiled slightly. And does he know I'm considering his firm for the acquisition? I don't think so. Why? Because, he said, taking my hand, I think it's time for Mr. Wells to learn some valuable lessons about loyalty and consequences. That night, we outlined a plan so perfect, so deliciously appropriate, that it made me realize all the pain of the past months had been leading to this moment of reckoning. Monaco in May was breathtaking, the Mediterranean sparkling under perfect blue skies, the Grand Belle Epoque buildings gleaming white against lush green hills. I arrived 2 weeks before the investment gala to oversee the initial work on Nathaniel's estate and prepare for what we had come to call the reckoning. Nathaniel's property was a 19th-century villa overlooking the sea, with grounds that cascaded down the hillside in a series of terraced gardens. The interior was exactly as he'd described, ostentatious, dated, and in desperate need of a complete redesign. I threw myself into the project, grateful for the distraction from the approaching confrontation with James. Monte Carlo itself was a playground of luxury and excess, designer boutiques, five-star restaurants, and the famous casino where fortunes were won and lost daily. Walking along its pristine streets, I understood why Nathaniel had chosen this place as his European base. There was an air of refined indulgence that suited him. Nathaniel introduced me to his social circle, tech entrepreneurs, European aristocrats, art collectors, and financial powerhouses. At first, I felt out of place among such wealth and influence, but I soon realized my design expertise and genuine interest in art gave me a natural entry point into their conversations. For the first time, I was appreciated for my own talents, not as an accessory to a successful husband. Through these new connections, I confirmed what Taylor had already discovered. James's firm was struggling. Their European acquisition strategy had stalled after several key deals collapsed. The investment gala in Monaco represented a crucial opportunity to secure backing for their latest venture. James's professional reputation was on the line. Even more satisfying was learning that James and Rebecca were having financial difficulties of their own. James had overextended himself buying the Lake Como villa and funding their extravagant lifestyle. Rebecca's modeling contracts had dried up as she approached 35, the same age she had mocked me for reaching. They needed this Monaco deal to maintain their facade of success. What neither of them knew was that Nathaniel had become the majority investor in the very technology company James's firm was attempting to acquire. The deal would never happen without Nathaniel's approval that now rested partly in my hands. As the days passed, Nathaniel and I grew closer. Our professional collaboration evolved into deep respect and genuine affection. He valued my opinions, both personally and professionally, consulting me on business decisions and introducing me as his partner at social events. The contrast between his treatment of me and James's dismissive attitude couldn't have been starker. One evening, as we dined on the terrace of Nathaniel's temporary Monaco apartment, he received a call from his assistant. "The guest list for the gala has been finalized," he said after hanging up. James Wells and Rebecca Carter are confirmed attendees. I set down my wine glass carefully. They don't know I'll be there. No. And they certainly don't know about us. He reached across the table for my hand. Are you sure you want to go through with this? We could simply decline their proposal privately. You don't need to face them. I need to face them, I said firmly. Not for revenge, but for closure. I need to look them in the eye as my whole self, not the broken woman they left behind. Nathaniel nodded, understanding. Then let's make sure it's an evening they never forget. The week before the gala, we intercepted an interesting piece of information. James had learned of Nathaniel's involvement with the technology company and was desperately trying to arrange a private meeting before the event. Nathaniel deliberately remained unavailable, ensuring their first interaction would happen at the gala itself. Meanwhile, Rebecca had been researching Nathaniel online, discovering his recent divorce and his reputation as one of the world's most eligible bachelors. According to our sources, she had made comments about upgrading again, apparently viewing Nathaniel as her next potential conquest. The irony was delicious. They had no idea who Nathaniel's new partner was, both professionally and personally. With Taylor's help, we had gathered irrefutable evidence of James's financial misconduct, both in our marriage and in some of his business dealings. The forensic accountant had traced the money he had hidden, documenting every suspicious transaction. We even had evidence that he had used insider information on at least 2 occasions, nothing that would necessarily lead to criminal charges, but enough to seriously concern his partners and clients if revealed. The night before the gala, I found myself overcome with anxiety. Seeing James and Rebecca again would reopen wounds that had only begun to heal. What if I fell apart? What if they somehow managed to humiliate me again? Nathaniel found me on the balcony, staring out at the lights of Monaco harbor. Second thoughts, he asked gently. Just nerves. It's been 6 months since I've seen either of them. He stood beside me, his presence reassuring. You're not the same person they hurt, Amanda. You're stronger now. Am I? Sometimes I feel like I'm just pretending to be strong. That's the secret no one tells you, he said. We're all pretending until one day we realize we're not pretending anymore. He turned me to face him. You've rebuilt your business, taken on a massive design project, and helped me navigate a complex acquisition, all while going through a traumatic divorce. If that's not strength, I don't know what is. His words steadied me. I realized then that regardless of what happened at the gala, I had already won the most important battle, reclaiming myself. Thank you, I said simply, for everything. He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Tomorrow, we walk in together, head high, shoulders back. We don't seek them out, we don't avoid them. We let them come to us. I nodded, the last of my doubts fading. And then we show them exactly what they lost. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in months, ready to face my past and embrace my future, a future that had turned out to be far brighter than I could have imagined during those dark days after my birthday betrayal. The Monte Carlo Bay Hotel and Resort was transformed for the investment gala, its grand ballroom adorned with thousands of white orchids and crystal chandeliers that cast a warm glow over the assembled guests. Outside, a parade of luxury cars delivered Europe's financial elite, men in impeccable tuxedos, women draped in couture and diamonds. I spent hours preparing, determined to present my most confident self. My dress was a masterpiece of understated elegance, deep sapphire blue with a subtle shimmer that caught the light as I moved. My hair, now styled in a sophisticated shoulder-length cut, was swept to one side. Around my neck was Nathaniel's gift, a stunning sapphire pendant that perfectly matched my dress. Ready? Nathaniel asked as our car approached the entrance. He looked handsome in his classic black tuxedo, his presence commanding without being overbearing. I took a deep breath. Ready. We timed our arrival for maximum impact, not too early when few would notice, not too late when the event would be in full swing. Instead, we entered during the sweet spot when most guests had arrived, but the formal proceedings hadn't yet begun. The effect was everything we had hoped for. Conversations paused as we walked in, Nathaniel's hand resting lightly on the small of my back. I recognized several of James's colleagues, their expressions shifting from professional interest in Nathaniel to shock as they recognized me. We moved through the crowd, stopping to chat with various guests. Nathaniel introduced me not just as his interior designer, but as his partner, making it clear that our relationship extended beyond professional boundaries. I spoke confidently about the Monaco estate project, establishing my credentials with people who had likely heard James's version of our divorce. From the corner of my eye, I spotted them, James and Rebecca, standing near the bar. James was deep in conversation with an older gentleman I recognized as a senior partner at his firm. Rebecca, wearing a dress that was slightly too revealing for the occasion, was scanning the room with a bored expression. I saw the exact moment Rebecca noticed Nathaniel. Her posture straightened, her hand went to her hair. Then her gaze shifted to the woman beside him, and the blood drained from her face as she recognized me. She grabbed James's arm, interrupting his conversation. He looked annoyed until she gestured in our direction. James turned, his expression morphing from confusion to disbelief to alarm in the span of seconds. Nathaniel squeezed my hand. "They've seen us. Shall we continue circulating, or would you like to face them now?" "Let them come to us," I replied, remembering our strategy. "They need this deal more than we need them." We positioned ourselves near a large floral arrangement, accepting champagne from a passing waiter. I could feel James and Rebecca watching us, could almost hear their frantic whispers as they tried to make sense of my presence with Nathaniel Morris. It took less than 5 minutes for James to approach, his business smile firmly in place. Rebecca trailed behind him, her earlier confidence noticeably diminished. "Nathaniel," James extended his hand. "I'm James Wells from Harper & Wells. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, but it's a pleasure to meet you tonight." Nathaniel shook his hand with cool professionalism. "Mr. Wells, I've heard a great deal about you." James's eyes flicked to me, then back to Nathaniel. "I see you've met Amanda." "Indeed," Nathaniel replied, his tone pleasant but his eyes hard. "Amanda has been redesigning my Monaco estate. Her talent is extraordinary." James looked like he'd been struck. This was clearly not the broken, financially struggling ex-wife he had expected to find. Rebecca stepped forward, attempting to salvage the situation. "Nathaniel, I'm Rebecca Carter. I've followed your work in the tech industry for years. So innovative." Nathaniel nodded politely, but did not offer his hand. "Miss Carter, Amanda has mentioned you." Rebecca blanched, realizing that Nathaniel knew exactly who she was and what she had done. "Amanda," James said, finally addressing me directly. "This is unexpected. I wasn't aware you were working in Monaco." I met his gaze steadily. "There's a lot you're not aware of, James." Before he could respond, the evening's host announced that dinner would be served. Nathaniel placed his hand on my back again. "We should find our table. Mr. Wells, Miss Carter, enjoy your evening." We left them standing there, Rebecca's face flushed with humiliation, James's tight with suppressed anger. Our table, I was delighted to discover, was positioned at the front of the room, a place of honor befitting Nathaniel's status. James and Rebecca were seated several tables back, where they would have a perfect view of us throughout the evening. During dinner, Nathaniel was at his charming best, engaging our tablemates in lively conversation while ensuring I was included in every discussion. I caught James watching us multiple times, his expression growing increasingly concerned as he observed our obvious connection. After the main course, Nathaniel was asked to say a few words as one of the evening's notable attendees. He spoke eloquently about technological innovation and investment opportunities before concluding with something unexpected. "Finally, I'd like to acknowledge my partner, Amanda Wells, whose creative vision has transformed not only my Monaco estate, but my perspective on what's truly valuable in this life." The applause was enthusiastic. I felt James's stare burning into me from across the room. When Nathaniel returned to his seat, he whispered, Phase 2. I nodded, and he discreetly signaled to his assistant who was positioned near the entrance. Minutes later, a small commotion at James's table drew attention. A man in a suit, Nathaniel's head of security, was speaking quietly but firmly to the senior partner from James's firm. Papers were being examined. James's face had gone from concern to ashen. What was happening, though few in the room understood it, was the careful sharing of evidence, documentation of James's questionable financial practices, provided to the one person whose opinion mattered most to James's career. As coffee was served, Nathaniel's phone buzzed with a text. He showed me the screen. Done. All principals informed. The information had been strategically shared with key investors connected to James's firm. By morning, his professional reputation would be in tatters. It was time for the final act. Nathaniel and I rose, making our way to the terrace for the promised fireworks display over the Mediterranean. As we passed James's table, I could see him engaged in an intense, whispered argument with the senior partner. Rebecca sat beside him, her expression confused and increasingly panicked. On the terrace, Nathaniel pulled me aside to a private corner with a spectacular view of both the sea and the ballroom through the glass doors. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Better than okay," I replied honestly. "I thought seeing them would hurt more, but I just feel free." He smiled, pulling out his phone. "One last touch." I nodded, and he snapped a photo of us, me in my sapphire dress, Nathaniel handsome in his tuxedo, the lights of Monaco sparkling behind us. With my approval, he sent it to James with a simple message: "Your meeting tomorrow is cancelled. Permanently." Within minutes, I saw James frantically checking his phone inside. His head snapped up, eyes searching the terrace until he found us. The desperation on his face was plain to see. He understood now who had the power to destroy his deal and possibly his career. As if on cue, both his and Rebecca's phones began ringing. They had finally recognized the magnitude of what was happening and were desperately trying to salvage the situation. Nathaniel turned to me. "Shall we?" I took one last look at James and Rebecca, my husband and sister who had betrayed me so cruelly, now panicking as their carefully constructed world began to crumble. "Yes," I said. "I've seen enough." We made our way through the hotel to the front entrance, where Nathaniel's Rolls-Royce Phantom waited, its silver surface gleaming under the Monaco stars. As we stepped outside, I heard them behind us, James calling my name, Rebecca's heels clicking rapidly on the marble floor as they rushed to intercept us. "Amanda, wait." James's voice was stripped of all its usual confidence. "We need to talk." I turned, facing them one last time. James looked desperate, his tie loosened, hair disheveled. Rebecca was crying, mascara running down her cheeks. "Amanda, please," James pleaded. "Whatever Nathaniel's told you, whatever you think you're doing, you're making a mistake. We can work something out." I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing but pity. "The only mistake I made was believing you loved me." "I can fix this," he insisted. "The divorce. We can renegotiate. I'll be fair. More than fair." Rebecca stepped forward. "Sis, please. I was wrong. So wrong. I never should have." I held up my hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "You're right. You never should have. But I'm grateful you did. Otherwise, I might never have discovered my true worth." Nathaniel opened the car door for me. I slid into the plush leather interior without another word, leaving James and Rebecca standing helplessly on the steps of the hotel. As we drove away, I didn't look back. There was no need. The past was behind me, and for the first time in months, I was looking forward to the future. 6 months after the Monaco Gala, my life had transformed completely. I sat on the terrace of Nathaniel's, now our Monaco villa, reviewing designs for a new project. The Mediterranean stretched before me, its blue expanse a daily reminder of how far I had come from the broken woman sobbing on Stephanie's bathroom floor. My design firm, rebranded as Wells Monaco Design, had flourished beyond my wildest expectations. The complete renovation of Nathaniel's estate had been featured in Architectural Digest, bringing a flood of commissions from Europe's elite. I now employed a team of 12 designers across offices in Monaco and New York, with a waiting list of clients eager for my signature style. The aftermath of the gala had been exactly as we'd anticipated. James's firm withdrew their acquisition proposal the very next morning. Within weeks, an internal investigation was launched into his business practices. Though he avoided criminal charges, he was quietly forced out of the partnership, his reputation in financial circles irreparably damaged. The Lake Como villa, the symbol of his betrayal, had been put on the market to cover his mounting debts. According to mutual friends, James was now working for a much smaller firm in Chicago, his days of multi-million-dollar deals behind him. Rebecca had not fared much better. After a brief attempt to establish herself as a social media influencer, she had returned to our mother's home in Connecticut, her modeling opportunities dwindling. The last I heard, she was dating a local real estate agent, a far cry from the wealthy men she had once targeted. Taylor had negotiated a divorce settlement that was more than fair, given James's misconduct. I received half of our marital assets, ownership of my design firm, and a financial settlement that acknowledged his fraudulent activities. The prenuptial agreement he had tried to use against me ultimately worked in my favor once his infidelity was established. My relationship with Nathaniel had deepened over time, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. Unlike my whirlwind romance with James, we moved forward carefully, learning each other's flaws and strengths. He had his own painful past from his previous marriage, and we both understood the value of honesty and trust. Coffee? Nathaniel appeared on the terrace, 2 cups in hand. Thank you. I accepted the cup gratefully, setting aside my work. The Singapore project is coming together nicely. He sat beside me, gazing out at the sea. I received an interesting call this morning. Oh! From Rebecca. I nearly spilled my coffee. Rebecca called you? How did she even get your number? Through a mutual acquaintance, apparently. She wanted to apologize for her behavior at the gala and to ask if I might consider investing in a wellness brand she's trying to launch. I laughed despite myself. Some things never change. I declined, of course. He took my hand. But it made me think about forgiveness. Not for her sake, but for yours. Carrying anger is exhausting. I sighed, knowing he was right. The anger that had fueled me through those dark days had served its purpose, but holding on to it was preventing me from fully embracing my new life. I've been thinking about that too, I admitted. Last week, my mother called to tell me Rebecca is struggling, really struggling. Not just financially, but emotionally. She's in therapy, apparently. And how did that make you feel? Complicated. Part of me thought, good, she deserves it. But another part remembered the little sister who used to follow me around when we were kids, before the competition and jealousy took over. Nathaniel nodded, understanding. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't even mean forgetting. It just means freeing yourself from the burden of resentment. 2 days later, I called Rebecca. The conversation was difficult, stilted with awkward pauses and moments of tension. She apologized repeatedly, sometimes seeming sincere, other times falling into self-pity. I listened more than I spoke, neither accepting nor rejecting her apologies outright. I don't know if we can ever be sisters again, I told her honestly. Too much has happened. But I don't want to carry this anger anymore, and I don't want you to destroy yourself with guilt. So where does that leave us? She asked, her voice small. In a better place than we were yesterday. That's all I can offer right now. It was a beginning, not of reconciliation, but of healing. For both of us. My parents had been another complicated piece of the puzzle. They had initially sided with Rebecca after the separation, believing James's version of events. My mother had even accused me of driving him away with my workaholic tendencies, a particularly painful betrayal during my darkest time. After the truth emerged, they had attempted to reconnect, but I had kept them at a distance, wounded by their lack of faith in me. Now, slowly, we were rebuilding our relationship. They had visited Monaco the previous month, an awkward but necessary step toward reconciliation. Your designs for the East Wing are exceptional, Nathaniel said, bringing me back to the present. The way you've balanced the historical elements with modern functionality, it's brilliant. I smiled, still not entirely used to having my work so genuinely appreciated. James had always treated my career as secondary to his, a hobby rather than a profession. Nathaniel saw me as an equal, valuing my creative vision as much as his technological innovations. I've been thinking about James too, I admitted. Not with anger anymore, but with something like pity. He lost everything that truly mattered in pursuit of what? A younger version of me? A fantasy that fell apart within months. The greatest revenge is not revenge at all, Nathaniel said. It's living well and finding happiness he can no longer touch. He was right. The moment in Monaco, watching James and Rebecca realize what they had lost, had been satisfying, but it was the life I had built afterward that represented the true victory. My birthday was approaching, the second one since that devastating call from Lake Como. This year, instead of dreading it, I was planning a celebration. Stephanie and Kayla were flying in from New York, along with Taylor and a few other friends who had stood by me during the divorce. What do you want for your birthday? Nathaniel asked, his arm around my shoulders as we watched the sunset paint the Mediterranean gold. I thought about the question carefully. A year ago, I had wanted revenge, to make James and Rebecca suffer as they had made me suffer. Now, that desire had faded, replaced by something more meaningful. Nothing, I said honestly. I have everything I need. And it was true. I had rebuilt my career, found love with someone who valued me, and most importantly, rediscovered my own strength. The woman who had collapsed in tears on her birthday was gone, replaced by someone more resilient, more authentic, and ultimately happier. The painful betrayal that had nearly destroyed me had instead forced me to rebuild on stronger foundations. I had learned to value myself, to recognize true loyalty, and to create a life that was genuinely mine, not an accessory to someone else's success. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared below the horizon, I realized that the greatest lesson from this painful journey was simple but profound. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what you truly need. Thank you all for staying with me through this story of betrayal and redemption. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after a betrayal? What helped you move forward? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if it resonated with you. Your support means everything as I continue sharing stories of overcoming life's most challenging moments. Until next time, remember that your worth is not determined by those who fail to see it.